here's what happened last night, no? Last night, si Commissioner Lim, together with Mr. Marlon Garcia and myself, we went to the Pius Center dyan sa may UN where the transparency server is operating. So what we did was we got copies of the script and copies of the packets sent by the political parties para ma-demonstrate yung sinasabi nating script, yung change, and then yung hash code. Alright? So, pinirmahan nung tatlong representatives ng media yung envelope na pinaglagyan natin nung ating thumb drive. So, nakapirma dito, GMA 7, Manila Bulletin, at saka Philippine Daily Inquirer. Hindi ko sila nakikita today dito. I think nandito ba yung mga kasama namin kagabi? Yun, sir, ikaw lang, no? But yeah, this is your signature, right? Okay. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon, nandito na si Mr. Marlon Garcia. What he's gonna do is, well, first of all, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open this para makita natin yung thumb drive. Okay? So, I'm gonna open it now, right? Okay? One thumb drive and nothing else. It's a thumb drive, all right? So, Marlon, can we start? Okay. So, to prepare for this, what we have is a two-monitor setup. So Marlon doesn't have to keep turning our set around, but everything that happens on this monitor will show up there. All right? So, yeah. First thing, we're going to have to put the USB into the machine. All right. So, Marlon, take it away, sir. Right.
All right, good morning. Basically, as James said, we're going to be taking a look at the files that we extracted yesterday from the transparency server. What are the files that we got from the transparency server? In here, you have several files. Some of them, the ones that end with SH, are what are known as scripts. Basically, a set of instructions that the operating system will understand and will execute in order to have an output, okay? In here, the files that say zip.hash and only zip, those are the results files that were given to the political parties and the watchers at PPCIB. They're at Pope Pius, no? So inside these files, we will have two more files, which are one for the results and one which is the hash of those results. One thing that is very important for all of us to keep in mind, okay? We're talking about hash codes, but everybody is relating these hash codes to the applications, to the VCMs, and so on. We all heard about the source code review, we all heard about the software certification, and we know about the hash codes of those applications. These hash codes that we're mentioning here have nothing to do with those hash codes, okay? It's very important to keep that in mind. Hash codes are something very common used in the IT industry in order to validate the integrity of a file or any object. So it's not only when we talk about hash files or hash codes, we're talking about the source code or we're talking about the applications of the election, okay? Hash codes are used for everything, okay? Now, having said that, what is it that happened in here? We have one script, which is this genresults.sh. This script basically took the information from the transparency server and prepared the package for the different political parties, okay, and the watchers there at Pope Pius. So, what we have in here and what we will see is how the file was generated, okay, and how the contents of the files were put into the compressed file and how we were computing the hash files, the hash codes for each of the files, okay? So we're going to be opening this one in an editor so we can take a look at it. So in here, basically what we have are some variables that we use for the creation of the script, just the name, the date, so we can always have the same information. In here, we have, for instance, the date. We will always use the date at the moment that the script is generated or when the script is launched. So we will have that timestamp in all the files that are going to be created, no? So basically what we do is create the connection to the application, and here is what happens. We have the connection to create the results file. In here, we put the information, we execute this file, and we put the results in a file that is called file name, which is this variable here, right? Results.nle 2016 underscore the date of the execution. So that is why if we take a look at the files that we had here, you will see results NLE, results underscore NLE 2016 underscore the timestamp, okay? So they were receiving one file initially every 10 minutes, then it was every 15 minutes, then every 20 minutes, to now that is every hour. Why was the frequency being changed? Because the volume of the information was increasing, generating the file took longer, we were not receiving so many results, and the hard disks were getting full for all the workstations of the watchers. So it was agreed to, little by little, just decrease the frequency. You will still receive the results, and you can always compare to the previous files that you were receiving, okay? So going back to the script, once we had the results file, which is basically a text file, what happened? When we generated the file initially, we had, let me open any of these. Okay, this is going to take a while to open because it's, as you can see, the file is 1.3 gigabytes. So since it is so big, we had to compress it in order to make it more manageable for everybody. Since we know that you guys had to give the results in real time to your different networks, if we give you a file that is 1.3 gigs, it's going to take long for you to copy it to the pen drives. It's going to take long for you to upload it to the servers and process it. So if we compress it, it's going to be faster. So when we have the information inside the file, the problem that we had was that there was an encoding issue changing the ñ, or doing the interpretation of the letter ñ with a question mark. That is something very common. Any IT expert can attest to this one. When you have a file system that is, for instance, in English, English doesn't have the ñ as a character, right? So how would the operating system understand the ñ as a question mark? Any person in the IT industry will tell you, yeah, it has happened to me because of the encoding of the file system. So what did we do? There is a simple instruction that replaces in a file every instance of a question mark by an ñ. This is, since we're using Linux as the operating system, there is a Linux functionality that allows us to do so, which is this functionality in here. Basically, what does it do? I will translate it to you. The command is sed. Anybody can look it up on the internet. You can Google it. Linux sed. How does it work? What does it do? It replaces patterns in a file by another pattern. In this case, we're saying the sed command, okay, do the substitution of the character question mark with ñ. And the file that we're using is the file that we recently generated, okay? So what happened here? We are changing all the question marks, making it look like an ñ. So when you take a look at the file, you will have the names correctly spelled. So it's not going to look ugly when you take a look at the file, no? Because when you are taking, I don't know, Osmeña, instead of seeing Osmeña, you're seeing Osme question mark A. It doesn't look good, right? So it's better to make it look right. Um, so the problem is that when we were doing the change, this changing of the ñ was done before, sorry, after we computed the hash of the file, okay? So as we all know, what is the hash of a file? It is basically the summary of the file. If you do something to the file, the hash value will change. That is why the hash is what we use to validate the integrity of a file, right? So unfortunately, when we did the change, we did that right after we computed the hash. So by replacing the ñ and the question mark, it was changing the hash code. Afterwards, this was corrected. The step to replace the ñ was done prior to the hash, and the issue was corrected. At any point in time, regardless of the change of the ñ or not, anybody can take any of the results files provided at any point in time to all the political parties. All the political parties have access to these files. They were giving a file every 10, 15, 20, 45 minutes. You can take any printed copy of any ER nationwide. You can take a look at the results that are posted in the website. You can take a look at the results that are in the statement of votes, in the COCs, everywhere. There was no result changed, okay? It's very important to keep that in mind. Only the ñ was replacing the question mark. All the votes for candidate A were still there. All the votes for candidate B, all the contests, everything remained the same. Nothing was altered. There was no change in timestamps. There was no change in the amount of votes. There was no change in anything else, okay? Only replacing the question mark for the ñ. The only command was this one. So I invite anybody to just Google it out. You will see that this functionality only does the replacement of the question mark for the ñ, and that is all what happened, okay? So the script, no, the script is very small. It's gonna be a couple of kilobytes only, 2.1 kilobytes. Yeah. Yeah, remember that at the end of the day, all the information belongs to Comelec. We cannot simply divulge any information. You need to get... Okay? Correct. Yeah, there is. But the thing is, when we did the change, we tested it. It's working. Okay. There were many things going on. We were monitoring the platform. And when we implemented that change, just to give you an idea, we implemented the change, but the error in the procedure was only noticed 24 hours after. That is when we were notified by one of the watchers. I think it was Rappler, no, a representative from Rappler, who said, hey, there is no, the Rappler was the one who told us about the ñ, and one of the political parties came out and said, hey, there is a problem with the hash 24 hours later. So if we failed on this one, also the political parties failed on validating that, because it should have been noticed on the first moment. When we provided these files, we told them, we're giving you the hash files so you can validate it. Yeah. Okay. There are many questions going around here. I know that you guys are looking for what happened here, who is the culprit here, okay? Basically, what happened is, we were notified about that one, and we saw, okay, this is a cosmetic issue that we're having in the file that is being provided to the political parties and the watchers. So since it was a minor change, as you can see, it's just only changing the ñ for the question mark, so it doesn't require to go up to the chairman, sir, I'm going to replace the ñ for the question mark, or to the commissioners. So from the engineering standpoint, I'm standing here as an engineer, because what we do is we strive for perfection here. So we need to have a product that is going to be a high quality product, a high quality deliverable. So if you see that you're having that one, and don't complain. It is. No, the thing is, we're not saying, yes, Anna?
Just a slight question, which is probably related a little bit to the first question. When you did the demo yesterday in the server room, I was not there, but I was thoroughly briefed by our RT head who was there, Mr. Bernardo. And he said that before you could make any changes, you needed both halves of a password. You demonstrated that yesterday, that when you only used, just to be clear, both halves of the password, meaning you needed half of the password from Comelec and half of the password from Smartmatic. Am I understanding the briefing correctly? Is
Yes,
that
correct.
right, Marlon? Which means, and I'm just trying to understand here and go through it, the procedural process, because the integrity of the data seems to have been established, but for me, the procedure is something that perhaps requires some investigation, and I concur with the concern being shown, no? If the changes could not have been made with another half of the password, does that mean when these changes were made, the half of the Comelec password were submitted, Marlon?
Yeah, definitely. We cannot operate any component of the platform without having the other half of the password. So Comelec cannot operate on their own. We cannot operate on our own. That is a standard practice that we have been implementing since back in 2008.
So that means there were two changes, right? One change was made on the 9th.
Correct.
And I reviewed the CCTV cameras yesterday just to make sure who was in the room. And I remember all of the parties were there. Is that right, Marlon?
That's correct.
Yes. And then I saw myself leave the room, and when I came back, apparently an announcement was made that the change was made already, right?
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And when everybody was there, that means the change, help me here, because if you need two passwords, that means Smartmatic had a password which worked with the Comelec password.
Correct.
So does that mean there was Comelec authority?
That there was Comelec authority to access the systems, yes, because we need to have both passwords.
Okay.
And as you can see, now that you mentioned the CCTV, you can see in the CCTV that there was a request. We were doing the change. It was always monitored, and it was announced to the political parties that were present there. So everybody was aware of what's going on, which is the protocol that we had in place. Whenever there is a change, any action that is going to be done, it has to be communicated to the political parties. You may ask any of the political parties that were present that day, and they will tell you the attention of the political parties was called, and the announcement was made. Guys, the ENE has been corrected. So the process in that particular was transparent. And actually, one of the things, I don't know if you guys are aware of this one, there is already a letter that was written by one representative from PPCRB, actually, Dr.
Yes,
William Yu.
Dr. William Yu.
And he's already explaining, even though there is a change in the hash code, if you revert the changes, replacing the ENE now back to the question mark, the hash codes will match. So meaning to say
yeah,
that
it's
if there was-
reversible.
Exactly.
So understand that. But I think I'm not a techie person, Marlon, you know that. I'm here to try to understand the procedure.
Sure.
Because I guess there's some concern if there is if the protocols are not well established, a cosmetic change, if a cosmetic change could be made, then perhaps other changes could also be made. And I think it's very understandable if all the organizations here are very vigilant about that.
Sure.
So I just wanted to understand. So before any change is made, two passwords are required.
Yeah.
Smartmatics and Comelec.
Correct.
And when each of these changes were made, there was a Comelec password used,
Correct.
which implicitly implies Comelec authorization.
Correct. If you put it that way, yes. That is for security. No, I don't have it, by the way. Hey, no. A Comelec
So-
representative, there is always there Smartmatic personnel and Comelec representatives.
So they gave their password.
No, they didn't give it. They typed it in.
They typed it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very important. Who typed it in? We have to check on the CCTV, honestly, because there were several persons from Comelec. Sometimes there is one person, sometimes there is another. The same as with Smartmatic. We have several persons. Each person
Yes,
has
you
a
always
password.
have two. There are always two Comelec and two Smartmatic in the
Correct.
server room.
Correct.
Yeah.
And on that day we had
So one
four-
of them typed in
Yeah,
their passwords.
we had 4 or 5 persons from Smartmatic
Yes.
and from Comelec. I
I
think there were 2
observed
or
that
3.
in the
Yeah.
CCTV. But that's just what I wanted to clarify. So
Sure.
there was joint authorization.
Yeah.
So moving forward, no changes can be made without the COMELEC half of the password.
Correct.
Are there protocols, Marlon? Are there
Yeah.
protocols of when we can actually make these changes? Are they escalated also? That's, I guess, what I want to ask also.
Sure,
Because
sure.
like-
I know where you guys are coming from. This change, since it was a minor change, it was just a cosmetic issue. As we said, this is not a critical change. We're not changing any results. We're not changing the format of the file. We're not changing anything. So no need to escalate it to the top management of company because it was a minor issue, no? There was a mistake, definitely, because look at the repercussions of that minor change had. And on that one, every change that is done in the platform, like yesterday, we had to communicate it to everybody. We explained it. Commissioner Lim was also there explaining that one. And there are more strict controls now with regards to what to do and how to do things in the platform.
Can we share these protocols, James? James, is it possible to share these protocols? I'm reassured that if there was a COMELEC inputted, if COMELEC inputted half of their password, at least I know there's COMELEC participation, authorization, and implicit knowledge.
Yes
But
po.
if we have protocols, can they be shared para it's clear?
As I've been saying also, no, the question of the protocols, that's a policy issue. So we'll have to get a ruling from the Commission on Bank on that.
Bank on that.
So we'll do that. But in the meantime, ma'am, we've seen the demonstration of Mr. Garcia. If we can excuse Mr. Garcia and the rest of Smartmatic, I think we will process this together, no? Pero kasi they're part of the story, eh. So I would rather that we process this tayo lang, and then with the public, of course, and the COMELEC. And we'd like to thank Mr. Garcia for his time today. We'll give him 3 more questions. Is that fair? 3 questions. Sandali. Joseph, lapit ka na lang. Una muna to. Correct. Okay, hang on to that question. Questions muna for Mr. Garcia. Are there any questions for Mr. Garcia? Si Joseph and then si Pia.
What protocols do you know from that you should follow from COMELEC? And regardless whether it's a cosmetic change or a critical change, what should have been done?
Okay. Whenever there is something that requires changes of any component of the platform, let's say replacement of a server or a component of a server, a switch, or reconfiguring the application server or the databases, something that is a major change that requires to go through the change board, meaning to say it has to be escalated to the PMO team. We communicate to them every single change that we do that has a big impact or that is going to take an impact on the platform. It has to be authorized by COMELEC, okay? No, not to the end bank. It goes only to the end bank if it has financial repercussions. If it is operational or technical, the project management team of COMELEC has the authority to decide on that one, okay? That has been the standard practice throughout the deployment of this project since day one. So it goes to the end bank. That is the, otherwise, the PMO team usually decides on that one. If there is anything that needs to be escalated to the end bank because it requires their approval, then it is escalated when necessary. There are certain categories that it's already known that it has to be escalated to the end bank.
Sorry, so the passwords were with members of the PMO. The COMELEC half of the password was with the PMO.
Sorry.
Is it correct to say that the COMELEC half of the password was with members of the COMELEC PMO?
That one, I don't know who has the password in COMELEC. I know from the ITD because they are the ones that are there. Whether the passwords are in possession of the PMO personnel, I wouldn't know that one. Please ask the COMELEC one.
With the explanation yet, you have to seek permission from the PMO, cosmetic or otherwise, right?
As I said before, yeah, I answered that already.
He said, may I? What he said is that their understanding is that there are some matters that have to be escalated and some matters that don't need to be escalated. No? Or, is that right? That's right.
Correct,
right?
correct.
Okay. No. There is always a COMELEC representative there. No, always a COMELEC representative. Am I right?
Correct.
All right. We'll go into that in greater detail. I just want to get the questions asked first. Pia?
Sir, a while ago you mentioned you acknowledged that there was a mistake that was done during the process. Could you tell us more on which part do you acknowledge that there was a mistake committed?
Yeah, the mistake is evident. Everybody is already aware of the discrepancy in the hash because the replacement of the character, the question mark, by the ñ was done after computing the hash of the file. Had it been done the other way around, there would be no problem.
But what about in your actions, sir? Do you acknowledge that there was a mistake in how you resolved the situation? Not technically, of course, but we're talking about the protocols.
Yeah, the thing is that is something that we can always check with COMELEC whether there was something wrong or not, because there was no harm done on this one. There was no effect, no repercussion on any results or any numbers. Okay, basically this is just more of a media issue, and rather than an impact on the results themselves. No, so that is something that we'll discuss in. No, sir. Actually, good thing that you mentioned that one. Since 2013, some persons have been implying that I changed the results, that I made the double count, and that is incorrect. I have said that plenty of times. In 2013, we didn't touch anything. In 2013, we were providing two sets of data: summarized results per region, individual results per precinct, as we're doing it now. What happened? We provided the data set to each of the watchers there, and it was up to the different entities or the watchers to do the counting or adding up the numbers. What happened is that one entity put together both results and they counted twice. I didn't touch anything. I just told them, you are counting the two results, right? Yes, okay, that's what I did. Okay? So that is how a misunderstanding becomes a big issue. Okay? But I didn't do anything on 2013.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And if you will
Sir,
excuse us.
can we have
Thank you.
Smartmatic for some issues?
Maybe later, can we finish this first? But we need we need to excuse Smartmatic. Thank you very much,
No, I need
gentlemen.
Ellie. Can we have Ellie?
Yeah, you can have him later, but not here, not now. If you want to go out, that's perfectly fine.